So with the standard suspension, we've got a centre of wheel to guard height of 520 millimetres. So on the rear with standard suspension, we've got a centre of wheel to guard height 555 millimetres. I'm Partsman Dan, owner of Partsman and Comprods.com.au, and today we're going to fit our Fox and Comprods suspension kit to Shay's Navara np300. This is the Fox fully assembled coilover. This is how it comes from the Fox factory. It's got a spherical bearing at the bottom. It also runs an internal floating piston. This much of the shock absorber is filled with nitrogen gas, and the rest is filled with oil. It's a fully serviceable item, so in about 60,000 Ks, once the oil started to break down, you just send the shock back to me, I pull it apart, I change the oil in it, I change a couple of O-rings, re-gas the shock, and the shock's like brand new again. Rear shocks for these are a 2-inch body. They're an aluminium body, which is very, very good because it dissipates the heat when the oil in the shock gets hot. It also has an internal floating piston, so about this much of the top of the shock is filled with nitrogen gas. There's a piston that separates the nitrogen gas from the oil. Once again, this shock's fully serviceable, so in about 60,000 Ks, when the oil starts to break down, send the shocks back to me, I pull it apart, change the oil, change the O-rings, put it back together, and the shock's like brand new again. This is the Comprods rear Panhard. It's adjustable. Make it longer, so it'll suit 2, 3, 4-inch lift. It'll even suit a standard lift. It's on-car adjustable too, so basically you just set this up on the car, wind this nut to make it shorter or longer, lock those nuts off. It's fitted with genuine Nissan bushes, and it's very, very strong. So these rear lower control arms, I get these made locally here on the Sunshine Coast. The eyes are all CNC'd. I have the Comprods, CR for Comprods logo etched into the eyes. They're fitted with a genuine Nissan bush. The tube is a 6mm heavy walled tube. These things are a serious bit of gear. These are our adjustable, these are on-car adjustable upper control arms. Once again, these are made on the Sunshine Coast. The eyes are all CNC'd. It's got the Comprods logo in there. It's fitted with a genuine Nissan bush. And the good thing about these arms is that they're on-car adjustable. So you fit them to the car, and then you just wind this nut here to get your diff pinion angle perfect, and you lock those nuts off. It's a really good design. Alright, so we've got our 2-inch raised rear coil next to our factory coil. Raised rear coils are not actually higher than a factory coil, a 2-inch raised coil. They've just got a thicker wire diameter than a factory coil. This one runs about a 15mm wire diameter. This one runs an 18mm wire diameter. That'll make the car sit higher at ride height, no load. Righto, so there's the difference between a factory shock and the Fox replacement shock for the np300. Come in and have a close look at the factory shock compared to the Fox. So the factory one's got a rubber bushing at the bottom. The Fox runs an FK spherical bearing in the bottom. Factory one has a smaller diameter and it's a steel bodied strut, whereas the Fox is bigger diameter, so it holds more oil, and it's an aluminium strut. Aluminium is very good at dissipating heat, so when these shocks get hot, the aluminium will help dissipate that heat. Now the other thing that Fox have as well is this threaded collar here, which makes them height adjustable. So in order to adjust this height, you need to take the pressure off these coils with coil spring compressors, and then you can wind that nut up, and that'll make adjustments to the front of your car to raise the height. Another good thing about these Fox shocks is they're fully rebuildable. So most replacement shocks, like your genuine shocks here, after 3 years, they're just a throwaway item. So this makes the Fox shocks very, very good value for money. So we've wound the lock nut up to 55mm from the bottom of the shock, or approximately 30mm of thread showing. So we removed the rear lower control arm, the factory rear lower control arm. When you compare the two, so this is my rear lower control arm compared to the factory, you can see that the replacement ones that I make are a lot more robust. than the factory item. If you bend one of these or snap one of these lower control arms while you're off-roading, you're going to do all sorts of damage to the back of your car. So if you're going to take your car off-road, this is probably the best modification that you can do, is change the rear lower control arms. Right, so we've removed the rear upper control arms out of the car, and this is a comparison of the rear upper control arms to my Comprods rear upper control arms. You can see the eye of the Comprods rear upper control arms a lot thicker in diameter. Also the tube is a lot bigger in diameter. I actually cut the factory upper control arm in half so you can see how thin the tube is that they use. So here's the factory upper control arm compared to the Comprods upper control arm. As you can see, I use a lot thicker tube. It's a lot more robust. I'm going to handle the punishment. So this is the Comprods rear Panhard rod compared to the factory rear Panhard rod. I cut this one open and you can see it's a very thin wall. Here's a sample of the tube that I use to make the rear adjustable Comprods Panhard rod. A lot less chance of you bending this one compared to the factory one when you're going off-road. This is the advantage that these upper control arms, this design of upper control arm, on-car adjustable has over others that are off-car adjustable. So you fit the arm up, and then to adjust the diff pinion angle, it's just a matter of grabbing this middle bit here and turning it to make the upper control arm longer or shorter to get your diff pinion angle perfect. Okay, so we finished fitting the Fox IFPs to the front. We started off with 520, now we've got a centre of wheel to guard height of 575mm. So centre of wheel to guard height is now 620mm, so that's lifted approximately 65mm. We've still got a steel rear bar to go on this, so that'll bring that down to approximately 50mm lift, should be perfect. So whenever you fit raised suspension to your car, you've got to loosen the front upper control arm bolts and the rear lower and upper control arm bolts. So they're all done up finger tight at the moment. Then just get on the car, jump up and down, that puts the bushes in a neutral position, and go through and tighten all the bolts up while the car's sitting on the ground at ride height off the hoist. So we just finished fitting Fox Shocks, the 2-inch IFP coilovers and 2-inch IFPs to the rear, as well as Comprods upper and lower control arms and Comprods rear adjustable Panhard. And this is what the 2-inch lift looks like on the STX navara np300. Pretty similar kit to what we do for the new Hiluxes, Colorados and other independent front cars. For more information, visit my website partsman.com.au or comprods.com.au. Can also be found on Facebook under Partsman or Comprods.